This is basic civil defense information from the Department of Defense, Office of Civil Defense, Washington.
Them at your conscience. Them at your conscience. Them at your conscience. Them at your conscience.
The Federal Reserve was created by Congress in 1913, and it was entrusted with the power granted originally to the Congress by the U.S. Constitution to coin money and regulate the value thereof.
But all these actions directed by the Federal Reserve alter the purchasing power of our money. And that purchasing power is always reduced. The dollar today is worth only 4 cents compared to the dollar that the Federal Reserve started with in 1913. This has significant consequences on our economy and our political stability.
I think it means the company comes back in the next 3 months asking for more money. You know, the debate out there about whether or not to save the automakers, you know, is clearly a heated issue. You're talking about a large amount of job cuts if in fact we allow these automakers to fail. But there's no question about it. They'll be back for more money. So, you know, the bailout nation continues. We're having a discussion about this. It's very upsetting when you think about what's going on, whether it's the autos, the banks. I mean, something's got to give.
Why is it upsetting, Maria?
Why is it upsetting? Because
where to begin?
We keep giving all of these companies all this money, and for a long time, when you look at the banks, okay, the government was afraid to tell us that it was Citigroup. Okay, all the whispering. You know, we don't want to tell you which bank is the weakest bank because the market will, you know, impact the bank. Now we know.
So now
the genie is out of the bottle.
Instead,
okay?
they made us think every
Citigroup.
bank.
And so now we have to save another company. The autos, we're saving the banks. It's too much. And now we're looking at all these tax increases. You know, it's just ridiculous. I'm joining the public outrage in a big way.
Bottom line is I'm a big bear on the U.S. stock market. You know, the Dow Jones already is down 20% year to date, priced in gold. That is a tremendous loss of purchasing power. The Dow has lost better than 60% of its value since its peak in 2000.
Sounds like good management to me. Sounds like good management of the economy to me. It's just like
all of the economic data will be evidence ahead of that Fed meeting. That happens on December 11th, and at that time we will have a clearer idea of how much money people are truly willing to spend, even in the face of higher oil prices. Meredith, back to you.
But do you believe that we're heading into a recession, Maria?
You know, Meredith, I do not. My gut feeling tells me that we have strength around the world. Economies like China and India and Europe continue to grow, and that certainly helps American companies that have operations there. I think that growth will probably offset the weakness that we're seeing in housing and, of course, this pressure from oil.
Well, I hope you're right because I know where you live, okay? Thanks.
What is on your mind?
Okay,
here's what the free market usually does, and what it's done for 240 years. It rewards good companies and punishes bad companies. We're keeping good companies alive that should be dead. Why are we keeping them on life support?
The banks have blackmailed us. In other words, the banks got so big that they incurred so much risk and took so much money out of the system that by the time Citigroup and the rest of them got to the point of near collapse, they went to Washington and said, here's your deal. You can either give us $1 trillion or we'll bring down the Western financial system. That's the implied threat. So the banks, it's blackmail. And with the auto companies, it's another version of blackmail, which is we've done a terrible job of running the auto companies. However, if you don't support us, we'll fire 3 million people and then you'll have to deal with that mess. So basically, we're funding these firms through blackmail. People like to call them zombie institutions. I prefer to think of them as Godzilla institutions because they continue to come back looking for more money. We need to stop the madness, organized bankruptcies and dissolutions. There are great banks and great car companies to be had in this country. These simply are not those companies.
There's just no end to this.
I think, though, Joe, that we're coming to the end. I think that whether it's the emotion that you see with Maria, the emotion that you've seen from me since I showed up in September and you couldn't shut me up, or the emotion you saw from Rick Santelli, or the emotion everybody watching feels, we're coming to the end of the line on this.
Taser him.
During debates on the banker bailout bill on the floor of Congress last week, Congressman Brad Sherman made a startling revelation.
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no.
Martial law is defined as the rule by military authorities imposed on a civilian population. According to an article in the Army Times last month, the administration's threats of implementing martial law is not idle talk. In this shocking article, the U.S. Army admits they're bringing a combat team back from Iraq to continue their mission in America, and that this combat team will be assigned to NORTHCOM to assist in the event of civil unrest in crowd control through non-lethal weaponry. This deployment is of course in direct violation of long-standing laws known as Posse Comitatus and the Insurrection Act, which strictly prohibit the U.S. Army from policing American citizens on American soil. While such extraordinary steps toward the open implementation of martial law on the streets of America might seem like the Bush administration's last-ditch effort to keep the public in check while they rob the Treasury of hundreds of billions for their banker friends, it is crucial to understand that this is only the final stage in a careful plan that has been unfolding for decades through both Republican and Democrat administrations. Government plans to suspend the Constitution and effect martial law have been taking place behind the scenes under continuity of government contingencies first exposed in the mid-1980s and raised by Congressman Jack Brooks during the Iran-Contra hearings.
Colonel North, in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster? Mr. Chairman.
I believe that question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir.
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution. And I was deeply concerned about it and wondered if that was the area in which he had worked.
And on May 9th, 2007, President Bush signed off on National Security Presidential Directive 51. This top-secret continuity of government plan effectively makes the president a dictator, allowing him to declare a national emergency for any reason whatsoever and implement martial law without the approval of Congress. The plan itself is so secret that not even members of the Homeland Security Committee in Congress are allowed to see its contents.
But now they've denied the entire Homeland Security Committee of the United States House of Representatives access to their so-called detailed plan to provide for continuity of government. They say, trust us. Trust us, the people who brought us Katrina, to be competent in face of a disaster. Trust us, the people who brought us warrantless wiretapping and other excesses eroding our civil liberties. Trust us.
Them at your conscience. Them at your conscience. Them at
We interrupt our normal program to cooperate in security and civil defense measures as requested by the United States government. This is a Conelrad radio alert. Normal broadcasting will now be discontinued for an indefinite period.